All right, folks. John Henning here with the Franchise Radio Show. And man, I got to tell you, I was just talking to Nick here, Nick Anthony, the founder of BOR, which is Best Option Restoration. Nick, thanks for jumping on with us here today, buddy.
And I appreciate it, man. It's good to be with you.
Yeah, man. Good catching up before we started and getting to know you a little bit. We've been connected on LinkedIn for like 100 years. I don't know if we've ever actually talked. So
that's right.
Hey, before we get into the franchise stuff, which is all really good information from what I saw, I always like to give our listeners a chance to kind of get to know you as a person a little bit. Franchising is all about, we got to talk about the numbers and the concept and the model and the process, but we do business with people. And, I like to give everybody a chance just to kind of get to know you personally. Can you share a little bit about, who you are, where do you live, what do you got going on personally?
Sure. I'm born and raised in the Bay Area. Moved out to the Denver metro area about 10 years ago now. My wife is from here and I like being married. So therefore, here we are. Three kids, three sports loving kids, do a lot of coaching for the kids, and whether it's soccer or football. I can tell you, I've been blessed more than I deserved for my family life, business life. I can say the same, but I can, I can't say enough. My wife stays at home and takes care of the kids for us, which is a much harder job than you or I have. I assure you of that. I will continue to franchise all day and let her do what she does.
Now, you said the Bay Area, you mean Tampa Bay, right?
No, not at all, man. The home of the 49ers, bud.
Okay. I just say, there's a lot of bandwagon fans all of a sudden that are from Tampa Bay.
Oh yeah. No bandwagon here. I mean, again, I have San Francisco things all over my house. I am born and bred and bleed San Francisco.
Yeah, so good, bad, or indifferent, you're a San Francisco fan.
I'm a Bay Area native, man.
All right, good. You just happen to be in Colorado right now, right?
Well, again, either that or I'm in divorce court, and I don't want
That's right, man. You see the kids via plane all the time, So, I love it. Well, hey, let's jump into the franchise stuff. Tell us a little bit about the history of BOR and just walk us through kind of how you got to where you are today on the franchise side. And then I've got some really good questions here that I'd like to go through.
Sure. Best Option Restoration, or what we call BOR, is my fourth franchise organization. I've sold 3 franchise organizations to private equity companies. This is my fourth one. I mean, I've had a pizza franchise. I've had a non-medical home care franchise. I've had a bio recovery franchise, and now I'm in traditional restoration, which is Best Option Restoration. Normally fire, water, mold, content cleaning, the standard restoration game. This spawned out of a need that I saw in the restoration space. Everyone was running around. All the big competitors, big companies out there were running around, all chasing the same buck. They were all being a man with a van with a fan.
Right.
And they're doing everything the same way, and they're doing everything the same way because it does work. They didn't focus on anything new. So what I did is I brought technology into restoration. So we use a thermal technology to do water mitigation. So it's a fancy word for heat. We just heat things up, creating drying chambers. I mean, think of it this way. It's really no different than taking your clothes, washing them by hand and either putting them on a clothesline to hang, or you throw them in a washer, you throw them in an encapsulated dryer, and they're drying 45 minutes instead of 3 days. Sure. So the average franchisor out there, or the average franchise company or restoration company, they'll take 7 to 10 days to do a water job. We're in and out in 2 to 3 days.
Gotcha. So, my next question was kind of, what's unique about your franchise, right?
Thermal technology. I will say thermal technology is one. I mean, that's unique. I mean, we have, which I helped develop, a proprietary software system that is only for our company. And it's basically the brain of the company. It just makes everything easy. It's a one-stop shop from invoicing to billing to estimates. It's just all built into one. And we took a lot of time building that software to make sure that it was probably the best. And in my opinion, it's the best. And I'm biased, but it's the best software in the industry for restoration today, teaming with our technology side, with the thermal technology. Our franchise is probably state of the art comparative to what normally people see out there.
It's all about perspective, right? The man in the van with the fan versus this. I mean, I liked your analogy of, hanging the clothes on the line or using this, fantastic new technology called a clothes dryer, right? I mean, it's not like earth shattering what you've done, right? It's you've put the tools together. Sounds like you have a system that you put together and tested and it works. And what was the difference in the time frames there? I caught it, but I want to make sure our listeners hear it.
The normal restoration guys will do a water mitigation job. It'll take them 7 to 10 days. With us, it literally takes us 2 to 3.
Wow. So you're a third of the time.
Oh yeah. And it's just the fact of, we just use science. We're just speeding up the evaporation process. That's really all we're doing.
Sure.
It's just, we're taking a room and getting it to 120 degrees rather than just blowing cold air. And we're not sure when it's going to dry. I mean, that's, again, we just kind of use technology to our advantage. We borrowed from another industry to create a space in the restoration industry. I can tell you right now, we borrowed it from the bed bug industry where they heat the whole home up.
Sure.
We just contain the home into a certain specific water location and heat that area up and then suck it out with DHUs. It's a superior process, no different than phones keep getting better. So does the restoration industry, just no one's doing it.
Right. Yeah, except for you guys. So how's it been going? I mean, it sounds like you have great technology. How's it been received? What do the franchisees think about it? Kind of take us through the first couple, the startup phase here with the franchise. When did you start franchising? How's it been received? Where are you at in the franchise or growth process?
Sure. We started the business in 2016. What I do is I build a franchise to about 50 to 75. After about 50 to 75 units, I take a step away and I put a management team in place. So about 2016, I stepped away from my last franchise, the one I just recently sold last year. I stepped away from that franchise to build Best Option Restoration. I spent 2 years in the field myself actually doing this work because I'll tell you, if you can't master it, you can't do it yourself, and you really can't teach it. So I was out there, and my wife couldn't believe it, but I was out there sucking out water, putting up containment. I mean, I was doing the work for 2 years. We started franchising in 2018. The franchisees have a huge advantage over other franchise companies because, one, they're in and out faster. Two, it's a great marketing pitch to come in and say, we are so much faster and science is why. So these guys get to be running around, being thermal energy scientists by explaining the process, which is really fun for them. And, our franchises have grown. We've grown incrementally. We never let the chain off, because I think until you hit, which we have, but until you hit 25 franchises, you don't want to take on 20 a year yet, because you just don't have the infrastructure to really support them. For our first 25 franchises, we wanted to make sure that we were intentional about bringing them on, making sure that they were supported correctly. And, you just don't want to have any failures in any ever, but certainly not with the foundation of the company. So now that we're past our 25, we're going to be taking on, 10 to 20 a year. So you're going to see, what do they call that hockey stick growth coming from us over the next 3 to 4 years. We're gonna really start exploding.
That's great. Now, how does the training work with this? You said, you had to go out and learn it all. And I love the way you grew it organically, because a lot of times folks will, they've got this great idea and, a great recipe, a great concept, whatever it is, and they turn the business into a franchise. It sounds like you intentionally said, I'm going to do this differently and create this company to be franchised, right? Yeah. Okay. And then you have organically grown, to get to that magical number, right? And then now you're ready to start that hockey stick. And I know exactly what you mean with the growth. How does the training work? Are folks learning to become the Chuck in a truck, with the fan type thing? And, you're showing them how to do that. Is this a scalable business, or they have multiple crews? How does all that work? And how do you train that to folks that aren't from the restoration industry?
Well, I'll kind of start backwards. We don't have one franchisee that comes from restoration. We don't have one franchisee that comes from construction.
Right.
All of our franchisees seem to be people that have been downsized in corporate life, or they just got tired of working the 9 to 5, working for the man, and they wanted to build something equitable and exitable for themselves. So as far as the training goes, I wish I could say, John, this is so technical. Very few people can do it. It's just not true. Anybody can do it. It's not a hard thing to do. The technical aspect, the machines do. So it's nothing, there's not a lot of brain power happening here. And if there was, I probably wouldn't be doing it. But it's a very simple process of placing machines where they need to go, making a funnel, if you will, a whirlwind with a heater and some dehumidifiers. The training itself is basically 5 to 7 days, depending on what part of the industry you get in, because there's a few other different parts you can get into. But the standard training is going to be 5 days here in Denver, and you're going to train with me. You're going to train with me and my head trainer, who's located right here in Denver. And you're going to be at the corporate office, and we're going to take you through not just how to suck up water and cut out drywall and put down fans. We focus on the growing the business, because you can master literally putting fans down and flicking a switch in about 32 minutes. Right? It's not
30 minutes left over, right?
Yeah. And now we have 4.5 days and 7 hours to go.
Sure.
What I do is from my background of growing companies, I focus on, now that you've figured this out and we're done, let's talk about how you scale. Let's talk about when you start hiring crews. Some guys come in with a crew and say, I have me and my brother-in-law, for instance. Me and my brother-in-law, we're gonna run a crew. How do you find people? How do you look for the right people? Is it hard to train them? How do we get more accounts? So what I do is I focus them for the next 4 days on business development.
Sure.
So not just your personal business development, but how you're scaling to, one location, in my opinion, in franchising. And this is my opinion. One location is you have yourself a pretty good job. You're working for yourself. 2 locations, 3 locations. Now you're running a company, and that's where the money happens. So I start talking to my franchises about adding on 2, 3, 4 locations, or attaching different aspects to the business, like content cleaning. Content cleaning happens after a fire. Rather than the insurance company replacing everything, they want some things clean.
Sure.
So you can either continue to expand territories, or you can bolt on content cleaning. And these are the things that they get when they join the franchise system. They're not joining a guy that was just really good in restoration and now decided to franchise it. They're joining a company which I'm a what I like to call, I'm a master in developing businesses that are scalable and furthermore exitable for a large multiple. And that's what I focus on.
Talk to me a little bit about how you identify the right areas. Like, are some areas better than others? Are there certain target markets you're most interested in? Where should folks, if I'm in this area and I'm listening or watching this and I'm in that area, I'll reach out to you. Like, where is that area at?
Well, I can tell you, the National Insurance Institute of America puts out an annual study, and they talk about how many water losses, how many fire losses. Just how many claims have they paid?
Right.
And this year it was 75 claims for every 100,000 people in any given area averages throughout the United States.
Okay.
We have territories of 300,000 people. So we're getting, and this is 75 claims
per year.
month.
Per month. Okay.
Per month.
Wow.
Yeah, sorry, I should have said that. It's 75 claims per month for every 100,000 people. And how they count 100,000 people is anyone over the age of 12.
Okay.
So they average this out. So what I'm getting at is, as long as they have a population around them, I can put this anywhere. We can build, because what we do is we build territories based off zip codes of 300,000 people, which is ridiculously large for the restoration.
So people in houses, right?
Pretty much, yeah. It just depends on how big your zip codes are, how big your territory is going to be. If you get in a populated area like maybe downtown Denver, or let's say San Francisco, you're going to get 300,000 people in about 2 to 3 miles.
Right.
If you're somewhere in Indiana, let's say, just pulling out Indiana. If you're somewhere in Indiana, you might have 10 to 12 miles. So and we're going to build it and develop it together. So that's what we look for, is not so much a specific area, but how big is the area around you? And are you okay with driving maybe 1 hour one way? And that's what we talk a lot about when we're developing a franchise.
What does the day in the life of look like for a franchise owner? I've gone through the due diligence process, which we'll talk about in a minute. I've pulled the trigger. I've gone through training. I'm ready to start building the business. I've got the other, 3+ days worth of training on how to build the business, right? What am I doing every day as far as a franchise owner goes?
The biggest thing that a franchise owner is doing in the very beginning is shaking hands and kissing babies.
Yeah.
While there are things out there called TPAs, third-party administrators, it's essentially the middleman between the restoration company and the insurance company.
Okay.
They're the middleman. Now, no one likes working with these TPAs because they are the middleman, so they kind of control the job. Sure. They'll tell you, let's say I'll give you an example. If it's a $7,000 job, they'll tell the franchisee, or they'll tell the restoration company, we have a job for you. We're paying you $5,000. We need it done in 3 days, because they need to squeeze in margin for themselves, because they're going to build the insurance company.
Sure.
So we work with TPAs, which gets the phone ring, and it's what I call really good reps, really good practice. So our guys are getting work literally the first week out of training. I mean, they're just immediately into work. Now, what we talk about though is getting them transitioning away from a TPA, transitioning away from the middleman, creating their own network so nobody can take it away from you. What the TPAs or other people won't tell you is that while TPAs, yes, will get your phone to ring, the margins significantly shrink. Mm-hmm. And if the TPA, for whatever reason, doesn't like you, they just don't call you anymore.
Sure.
So they can turn off your business just like that. If you've built your own network with your own supply line, let's say, is what we call people to refer you, no one can take that away but you. So we talk a lot about going out there, shaking hands, kissing babies, being a part of the community and helping people out where they need help. Because when people call you, they need help. I mean, I tell people, look, if someone's calling you and saying, I'm staying in an inch of water and you don't get that job, that's yours to lose.
Sure.
I mean, your phone isn't ringing just for usually estimates. Your phone is ringing because people want help. Yep. So we'll get the phone ringing for you. It's up to you to, which through training class, and we literally walk them step by step. I mean, we have a complete scripts that they, that they just read. All they have to do is, again, you buy a franchise because I want you to follow a system. I don't want you to deviate. I mean, everyone will deviate a little bit and make it their own, but there is a system to follow, and there is nonstop training. We have quarterly trainings. We're going into our annual meeting, which is next week in Las Vegas, where all the franchises get together and we do a big group 4-day training, kind of refresher, and then some new stuff, what's going on in the industry. So the training doesn't stop. You're never left alone. But a day in the life, to kind of get back to that, I went off on a tangent, but a day in the life of a franchise is you get up, if you're not on a job with your crew, if you're not shaking a homeowner's hand for a crew that happens to be there, kind of massaging the job, then you should be out marketing, because we want you building your network as fast as possible. So the franchisee never has to worry about a TPA just turning them off. And that's something that, I mean, we have had horror stories of third-party administrators changing a policy and eliminating $4 million of business from a company literally overnight. Because
you don't want all your eggs in that basket.
Yeah. That's why we talk about marketing. We teach them marketing. We tell them who to market to, when to market to, and frankly, when not to market to them, so you're not disrupting. So again, there's not a lot of thought that needs to go into it. What they need to do is sit down, take a lot of notes, and call us, as we'll call them. We like to keep a lot of open communication with the franchises until we get to the point where they're like, okay, we're good. we're doing $1 million a year, Nick. We don't need weekly calls. Okay.
I'll see you at the convention, right?
Yeah. I mean,
when you come to town,
we like to make sure that our franchises stay engaged, because, in my opinion, again, one of the worst things in franchising that can happen is that they're on an island and they don't feel community. And if they don't feel community, they don't feel there's got to be love back and forth to the franchise. I mean, without the franchises, corporate isn't making money. So you have to make sure they're happy. So essentially you stay happy.
I say this all the time in franchising. It's funny. It's kind of like real estate. It's any people, business people, right? Mm-hmm. Is that everybody looks at a concept based on numbers and financials and territories and marketing and expenses and all of that. And all of that stuff is important, but you can have all of that stuff. And if you don't have a really good team in place that's running the franchise company, the rest of that doesn't really actually make that much difference. Because if you're not engaging with your franchisor, or you're as a franchisor, you're not engaging with the franchisees, even that $1 million guy, you're still going to engage with him. It'd just be a different thing, right? Right. And that's the key. People do business with people. I don't care what kind of business you're in. I talk to franchisors across 50 different industries on a regular basis, and everybody says the same thing. Is I ask the question, sometimes it'll come up through the course conversation, what's your unique differentiator? And everybody gives me what you, and you didn't even have to be asked the question, you're the thermal, right? That's one of your unique things. Yeah. That can be duplicated. So what's your real actual unique differentiator is the team. Right. The engagement, the people. That's when people talk about culture of the franchisor, that's what it's all about right there. That's why people stay, right? I mean, you can make money, but if you're making money and you're not getting along with the franchisor, you're considering something else.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, it goes even, it's even on the technical side or in the emotional side of the perfect example, the annual meeting that I just talked about, that's going to happen next week in Vegas. We call it the family reunion.
Exactly.
Because we're all just getting together to share ideas and make ourselves better as a family. Because again, without that culture, the money's great, but I mean, a lot of things make money and people are miserable. Let's make money and actually like each other.
I like your example of the island, right?
Yeah.
That's great. Let's talk a little bit about the support, Nick. You said, here's how training works. Here's what they're doing every day. If I'm a franchise owner and I need some form of help, with a TPA or a networking event, or I have an odd situation, or something's not working correctly, or maybe my closing rate, maybe I'm only getting 1 out of 3 of those people standing in an inch of water. What do? I just reach out to you and throw up the flare and you rush to town and help me out? How does the support work?
Yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, that's almost exactly how it works. I mean, we watch the numbers, the KPIs pretty closely. We want to know where you're struggling. And because where you're struggling is where we're going to meet you. I'm not going to talk to you about closing if you're a good closer. You might be struggling with HR issues, with employees, and vice versa. If you're great with employees, but your closing rate's terrible, something's wrong there if you're not getting things on the phone. So how our structure as far as our support works is pretty simple. Every franchisee has a mentor, and a mentor is a senior franchise. Now, to be a mentor, you have to at least be doing $1 million a year.
Okay.
And the mentors are not asked by us. They are normally volunteers from the franchisees saying, I want to help people the way I was helped. Our whole thing is paying it forward. I was helped so much by Glenn. I want to go help Kyle now because, he's around my area. We have a lot in common. I want to see him succeed like we're doing. So, and I think that starts from the culture, the company culture that you try to build of helping. So they all have a mentor, and then they will have what we just basically call area manager. And that's just somebody at corporate that watches. Basically, we cut the United States into 5 sections.
Sure.
Northwest, Southwest, SEC. So a manager has a certain section that they will talk to these mentors, because every area has 2 to 3 mentors in it. So it's almost like what some franchises call it is the advisory council. We don't call it that because we want more of an open door policy. But the way it would work is the franchisee usually goes to the mentor and says, hey, Kyle, I'm having a problem with this. If Kyle can't figure it out or whatever it is, I mean, usually it stops right there, to be honest with you. But if it needs to go further, it'll escalate one step up. And if everyone's just kind of looking around going, well, I'm just not sure, I'll jump in immediately and say, well, let's figure out the issue, because 9 times out of 10, it's not a major tweak. It might be a 1 to 2 degree tweak that you might be overlooking or just making bigger than it is, or, what I find in not only in franchising and business in general, it's not a major overhaul that most companies need. It's tweaks. It's just little things that you overlook because you're in the business playing the game.
Right.
But the coach is out looking from afar saying, well, you just need to fix this right here, and that's generally what happens. So I come in and I try to talk to the franchises. I try to touch every franchise, and it's harder to do as you get bigger, but I try to touch every franchise at least once a quarter personally. I'll give them a call. I mean, I know every franchise's wife, their kids, the birthdays. It's because if I'm going to talk about us being a family, boy, I better walk my talk. I can't stand people who say, "Oh yeah, we're great," and then you never hear from the CEO again, or you never hear. It's like, well, you're not really building a family. You're saying you are to get them in, but then they feel like I said before, on an island, and it's just not. I never want to sell a franchise to somebody and have them say, "Well, if I would have known that, I wouldn't have bought."
That's one of my favorite phrases in franchising is you will not get through this and look back and say, geez, John, I wish I had known this.
Right. Yeah. Because we're not doing our jobs.
Right.
Tell them all the bad stuff because the good stuff's easy. If you can handle all the bad stuff, and what I talk about is the streakiness of the business. Sometimes you do get called away from dinner. You will leave the dinner table, or you'll have to take a call when you're in a movie with your kids. I mean, things will happen. If you can manage that, well, then hell, the money's the easy part. That's the fun stuff. I don't need to tell you about the fun stuff.
I call it proactive objection handling, right? Let's pull that Band-Aid off quick up front. Yeah. Here's the three things. I love using three things. It's one of my famous, everybody in franchising that knows me says you and your three things. Doesn't matter what it is, always three things, right? And here are the three things you need to know about this, right? And I go through those three big things that are always the hang-up things, right? That's good to hear, man. I love hearing that story because you talked about the type of franchise owner you're working with, and they've been downsized or outsourced, or, the company merged or whatever it is, corporate refugees. And, you mentioned that. Can we talk a little bit about those folks? You mentioned them. Is somebody like they're just out there rambling around and randomly find you? What's the best way that they can find out information about your franchise?
I mean, for me, the easiest thing is always going to be going to our website at borestoration.com. It's just borestoration.com. It's pretty simple. That's always the easiest way because they can always, whether submit a form or call and talk to somebody. I mean, I'll say this, when the franchises get into the process, whether they come from a broker or they go straight to us, every franchise has my direct number. I mean, directly, because I want them to call me if something comes up. Normally, which sometimes I wish they wouldn't, but out of respect, they don't call because they're like, well, everyone's busy.
You're the CEO, you're so busy, right?
Yeah, I appreciate that. I really do. But, you bought into a franchise to have problem solved and a mentor. And that's what that's what I'm providing to you. I mean, and I tell them, I'm not doing it for free, guys. That's what you pay 7% for. It's not free. So you're going to pay 7% whether you call me or not. So you might as well call. Right. But I mean, the easiest way, is just going to our website, taking a look. I mean, there's a lot of information on it. We have territories out the yang available because there's just so many territories open available. The only two states that right now we are not selling in, well, three, is Hawaii. That was the one I almost left out, but we don't sell in Hawaii. We don't sell in California right now, and we don't sell in New York.
Yeah.
California, unfortunately, in my opinion, has become, and I'm from California, has become unfranchise friendly and just unbusiness friendly. And I don't want to jump through hoops to do business there. There's low hanging fruit other places. In New York's kind of wrapping the same.
Been around a long time. I know exactly what you're saying. It's very common in that scenario. So
there's low hanging fruit other places that
sure, you got a lot of growth, a lot of green space in the other states. So focus in on what you can do, right? And get through that. So can we talk a little bit about the numbers and the financials? Like, what does it cost to get started? Give us an idea what somebody needs to bring to the table.
Well, I mean, whether it's an SBA loan or whether it's the Dream loan or the Express loan, I mean, they're going to need to get started appropriately. They're going to need $150,000, and that's going to cover all their operating costs, the equipment, the truck, the franchise fee, absolutely everything. $150,000 gets you started. I can tell you between you and I have not had a franchise yet that hasn't made back the money in 8 months. So, I mean, it's a highly profitable, high margin industry that's not going anywhere, that continues to expand. People say, oh, there's a lot of competition out there. There is, because there's a lot of work out there. Right. I mean, if there's not competition in an area, you might want to think twice about doing that franchise.
Right.
But we're selling franchises for a reason. I mean, your average franchise or your average restoration company is a week to two out from getting jobs. I mean, from taking jobs, because they're just so busy. They can't hire enough people. They can't get enough equipment. It's just such a growing industry. But 150,000 gets you started, and I mean, it's 148, blah blah blah. But 150,000 gets you started, and again, our guys start making money quick.
That's good. So can we talk a little bit about the process itself? I raised my hand. I filled out the form on the website. What's going to happen? I'm going to get an email with information. I go to a webinar. Somebody's going to call me. What should I expect as a potential buyer? How am I going to learn about you guys as a company?
If you submit a request, you're going to get an email from me. It'll come from me, and it'll have a 10-page PDF on it, and it's going to tell you almost everything you need to know. Obviously, it's not the FDD, but it's everything you need to know in the beginning to pretty much decide, do I want to get on the phone with Nick? Because it's going to tell you what your costs are. It's going to tell you what we expect out of you, what you expect out of us, or what you can expect out of us, training, where the location is. I mean, it's a pretty girthy 10-page document, not so much to where it's unreadable,
sure,
but it does walk you through, here are the next steps if you're interested, because my email very simply says, hey, here's the information that you requested. Take a read. If you like it, schedule a call with me. Because what we don't do is, I don't do a lot of chasing. I just don't chase people. If they're interested, I'll know. If they're not, I'll know. I don't hear from them. So when they get the email, they take a look at the stuff. They send me an email back, or my phone number's in my email, or they call me right back and say, hey, Nick, I'm interested, or send me a text. Let's set up a call. Great. Let's set up a call and talk. I set up a call for about 30 minutes, introduce myself and the company, answer. Basically, it's less of a sales thing and more of a, okay, what questions do you have? Because you read the 10-page document. What more do you have so I can answer it for you? Because I want you getting on the phone with the franchisees ASAP. I mean, of course, I'm going to say great things about the company. You need to talk to the people that I've already bought from. And so I do the initial upfront call. I immediately get them validating with franchises. I want them talking to our franchises, because if I'm full of crap, they're going to let you know, and that's why I'm like, look, start talking to people right now. If you think you want to be a part of Best Option Restoration, and you like the pedigree, you feel like you fit the pedigree, you like the family culture, you like what I'm saying, talk to our franchises and see if I'm BSing you here. When you realize I'm not, let's get on the phone. Now let's talk details. Let's talk about timeline, where you're at, what your territory looks like. Getting into the almost basically deconstructing the FDD at that point.
Sure.
I mean, let's really get into it, and then send them the FDD, and then it's really a matter of, are you funded? Do you need help getting funded? Do I need to send you to somebody? Do you want to talk to my guys? Or are you cashing out a 401k or rolling over an IRA or whatever they might be doing?
Sure.
And hey, let's get started. I've had some guys literally get on the phone with me the very first call, and within 4 weeks, they're in training class. I've had some guys take a year.
Yeah, we all have that too, but look, hey, everybody's on their own timeline, right? Things are important to them, that, we have our lives, but the reality is, the way that you explain that is the exact same way I've always done this. Is we know as franchise professionals that here are the 8 to 10 things that everybody's going to want to know, right? Yeah. So what a novel idea. Let's give them all that information up front. Right. In a non-sales environment, here's everything that you really want to know. And I'm assuming that your 10 pages isn't, we're the best company in the industry 10 times, right?
Right. Yeah, no.
Right. Hey, I've seen brochures that if, we have a 10-page brochure we send out to somebody, and then you look at it and it's like 10 pages of why Bohr's the best company. And that's not what this is, right?
Yeah, no, it's definitely informational. Because I mean, like you, I think providing them with the information up front, no one wants to waste time. I don't want to waste their time on the phone or their time away from their family. I sure as heck don't want to waste my time, with someone that isn't interested or is just kicking tires. If they're truly interested and they want to move forward, great, I'll take you. I'll go as fast or as slow as they want. But let's give them the information up front so it doesn't seem, I don't ever want to sell anybody. I want to select the right people.
No, that's great. That's great. So, Nick, I'll make sure we include all of the information here on the podcast website and everything for them. But I want to give you the last minute or two here to kind of give us the closing remarks here on why someone should consider, the industry, and if they're going to consider the industry, why they should take a serious look at Bohr.
Well, I can tell you, I appreciate it. And I do. I appreciate the call. This is an industry that is not going away. It is recession proof. It doesn't matter who's the president, how the stock market's doing, what the weather is outside. I don't care if it's hot or cold. Pipes are busting. Homes are getting older every single day. And you'd be amazed on how many new homes have problems with water heaters and air conditioners and just things that people don't think about, crawl spaces. So the industry's not going anywhere. What was it? $600 billion paid out last year. It's just ridiculous. Over $1 trillion in the last 10 years. The industry is huge, which means there is competition. Competition is a good thing. If there was a competition, there wouldn't be work out there. Why they should look at best option restoration is very simple. If you want to be with a growing company and be able to scale without having people right on top of you, and be with a company that actually genuinely cares about, you're not just a number to us. You are our family member. How involved you are in the family is completely up to you. You can talk to us every day. You can talk to us once a quarter. Or you can talk to us annually. It's really up to the franchisee, but the support given and offered to our franchises are bar none the best out there. You're getting with the company at Best Option Restoration, where the founder, me, I've grown 3 other brands and exited, to private equity companies. I know what I'm doing. I know how to build a company, and it's teachable. It's, experience. This experience is transferable. And so what I want to do is get around a bunch of good people that want to do the same thing I want to do and grow a successful business in the restoration space.
I love it. Nick, thanks for sharing the info. I'll make sure to include all of the contact information, everything, how they can get to your website. And it's borestoration.com is what you said, right?
You got it. Yep, that's right.
Okay, good deal. We'll make sure to include all of that right there on the page. Folks, we're here with Nick Anthony, the founder of Best Option Restoration. Nick, thank you so much for the time today, buddy.
Thank you, John. I appreciate it, man. Good talking to you.
You too.